Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode here at the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. I'm in a building that's feeling less and less like my own with every passing day, but I won't go into it because I'll just get mad. But anyway, you know what we do have? We have Wednesday. You know what Wednesdays are? Big news days. And you know what that calls for? Jayar Jackson. How's it going, Jayar?
What's going on? Apparently, from what I'm seeing, it calls for my horrible internet connection. But I could go into that company that gives me bad internet service that I pay too much money for. But yeah, you know, other than that, it's a big news Wednesday. Spectrum sucks, but it's a big news day on Wednesday. Spectrum absolutely sucks. If you have the opportunity, do not use Spectrum service. Okay.
Yeah.
On to the news of the day.
You know who's not our sponsor? Spectrum. Anyway, you know who is? Shop TYT. You know what I'm wearing? The Dragon Squad shirt for the first time ever on the show. I mean, honestly, like, I don't want to make Carlos's head get too big, but that's pretty good. This is one of the best ever shirts at TYT, and it is now available at shoptyt.com. It's just really cool. Like, this is as close as I will ever come to wearing the mascot for a sports team. That is as close as it's gonna be. A political commentary community.
Then there's a couple of designs, right, John? There's also the TDR one as well. There's another shirt.
There is also, yeah. We have a Damage Report with a cool little, like a spray painty sort of vibe to it. But this one's up now too, just very cool. By the way, I was gonna pull the video for it. Someone, I guess, was teasing Jank on the main show in the super chats about how much these are like selling, how much people like them, and so he had sort of salty response about some other shirt. I think it was the Shut Up Man shirt or something. He was like, maybe it'll sell. Probably not as well as Dragon Squad. We're getting to him.
It took you this long just to get your own shirt, and now you're already getting some pushback from the main guy. Come on, bro.
I know. Can I have 1 month? Seriously. But anyway, Jayar, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that we've got some awesome stories to talk about. We also have some awesome people watching the show, and you know what would make them even more awesome? Liking the stream and perhaps sharing it so the more people know that it's active. If you're on Twitch especially, share it. Let's see if we can match the viewership of AOC's stream last night. Probably not gonna happen. But anyway, we'll be talking about that later on. And yeah, so with that, we've got a lot to talk about. So Jayar, why don't we jump right into it?
John?
What?
John. Give me like 2 seconds. I think I can, but I'm not sure I can.
What can you?
Hold on.
I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm a little bit worried. Okay, I don't know what he was trying to do, but I think what he did was nuked his computer's connection. No, wait, he's here. Jayar, what are you experimenting with over there?
I was making sure that you could see or hear me, and then it fell apart, and I'm reconnected. Here I am.
Okay, well I can see you and I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay, let's go.
So anyway, with that, let's both see and hear you talk about this insane 60 minutes back and forth. Donald Trump was apparently supposed to be interviewed for 60 minutes by Lesley Stahl. He sort of was, but not for 60 minutes. It was for about 45 minutes apparently. And what was supposed to be just an opportunity from the president of the United States to like get his message across in the closing weeks of this election that he is very much trailing in, suddenly has turned into sheer insanity. So let's walk through the drums together. We had this tweet from Caitlin Collins with some behind the scenes information about how it all fell apart. Apparently there was some drama while President Trump was taping his 60 Minutes interview today. He abruptly ended his solo interview after around 45 minutes and did not return for a scheduled walk and talk he was supposed to tape with Pence. He doesn't really want to be seen with Pence, I guess. And Pence didn't do it apparently. So anyway, that was at first, that's what we knew, that he had left. He had walked out of an interview for some reason. Then he does this. He tweets a 5-second video, Lesley Stahl of 60 Minutes not wearing a mask in the White House after interview with me, much more to come. But does there have to be? Does there have to be more to come? You know what could have come? Just an interview between a reporter and a sane person. But apparently that's not one of the things that's gonna be coming. And look, we've got more because there are layers to this, but Jayar, he has taken what could have been an interview and he's apparently turning it into a feud with Lesley Stahl, which I don't think a lot of people are really invested in him defeating. I don't know, maybe it's popular with red hats for them to bash on Lesley Stahl, I don't know. Oh, Jayar, we are having trouble hearing you now.
Now you can hear me.
There you go, I can.
The problem here is that not even the problem. The impressive part about this is that Trump has graduated to about the middle school level of deflecting from a bad situation. Usually it's just name calling, look at her face, look at how she sounded, look where she's bleeding from, all that stuff that he's done in the past. At least this time, he's looking to deflect on something else. He's like, well, let me go ahead and try and go after whatever she's done or whatever she looks like or whatever 5-second moment I can catch her in so that no one can talk about how horrible this interview went. Oh, I'm gonna release it early. So anytime this guy pulls out this many stops to change the subject matter of what probably was said, asked, and not answered in that interview, speaks volumes as to how much he doesn't want it to actually be seen. Usually it's just a name calling. Oh, we'll get over now. And then my friends like how I can bully people around. It'll be fun. Now he's actually really going in hard to make sure no one really sees what happened here. So it must have been really bad.
Yeah. Well, but I don't know. I mean, inevitably we're gonna see it, and it turns out there isn't just one way that we might see it. The normal way, they film the interview and then the interview comes out, presumably on 60 Minutes or at least a curtailed version of it. He might actually release it. So let's continue. He tweeted about 16 hours ago, I am pleased to inform you that for the sake of accuracy in reporting, I am considering posting my interview with Lesley Stahl of 60 Minutes prior to airtime. This will be done so that everybody can get a glimpse of what a fake and biased interview is all about. Everyone should compare this terrible electoral intrusion, capitalized, with the recent interviews of sleepy Joe Biden. So he had an issue with the interview. He stormed out of the interview. He then mocked the person doing the interview. And now rather than just letting the interview come out, he's gonna release it preemptively, which I don't think you're supposed to do when you get interviewed. They were apparently recording it for like archival purposes for the White House. Right. So he's gonna release it, but what is he gonna release? Just the interview, presumably. I mean, maybe they'll edit it in some way.
Absolutely.
How is that better? What is going on? Where are we? What year is it? I don't understand. Just sit down and answer the questions, you big moron. Like that's all you have to do. You desperately need this. And I get it. He could just post really fast. He could just post a photo of Lesley Stahl and he could just call her the C word and invite all of his friends to do it. And they would like that. The base would like that. But I don't think the suburban women that he so desperately wants to like him are like, you know what I want? I want him to tear down Savannah Guthrie and then get that B Lesley Stahl. Then I'll support you, Trump. And thanks for saving my neighborhood.
No, honestly, well, you're looking at a strategy approach or a strategic approach to something that maybe you would do even if you're a bad guy. He seems to, and there's been some, I've seen only headlines because I won't read too deep into it, but it seems like since the COVID thing, it's been like more, I don't know, I didn't think it was possible, but more of like a flame-throwing approach to everything he does and says. Mm-hmm. So you're thinking like he would have a strategy to start tearing down people so that he can move in a certain direction. He's cornering himself by saying, well, I'm gonna release this 45-minute interview. He didn't say in its entirety because he wouldn't, but whatever 60 Minutes releases, it can't possibly be better than you releasing more, because more is what is bad. So I don't see really reason for him to release it. He's just kind of throwing out threats now. But usually your threats would put the pressure on the other person. This threat puts the pressure on you, bro. Well, like people would be like, I don't care if CBS releases it. Fine, release it. What do we have to be afraid of? You don't want to look bad.
Or did he? Because he apparently doesn't think so. Okay, so let's walk through the strategy of the Trump stall, rumble in the jungle. So he walks out of it, and we're gonna have some behind the scenes information about why he might have walked away. He says at a rally, because this is now part of his material, he says, oh, and you have to watch what we do to 60 Minutes. You'll get such a kick out of, you're gonna get a kick out of it. Lesley Stahl is not going to be happy. Okay, so we're gonna try to get into his mindset and figure this out. So Lesley Stahl is not going to be happy that he's releasing the interview that she appears to have been just fine with coming out, that he walked out of. I don't know what that means, that I'm trying. I feel crazy after 7 months, but
I came up with it, John. This is the answer. This is what he thinks, and I think this matches, right? So he's obsessed with ratings, and every time he talks about media organizations, he doesn't talk about how he cries foul and it's false and fake news. But every time he comes back to ratings, so he thinks, man, 60 Minutes, man, they got this big scoop to have me on. So they're gonna release it on whenever, Sunday. I don't know when 60 Minutes comes on, but they're gonna release it on Sunday. I'm gonna release it sooner, and it's gonna destroy their ratings. That's his only play here. That's all he's thinking. That's gotta be it.
Maybe.
He's like, oh, they're gonna be so mad because I'm gonna release it, and then they don't have it exclusive. That's really what it is. It can't be. What else can it be?
Let's say that you're right. Okay, so let's go through it. Let's process strategically, is this good for him? So in terms of the ratings, now his episode, according to his theoretical strategy, will now get far lower views than Joe Biden's, because Joe Biden is also gonna be interviewed by Lesley Stahl. And this is coming off of dueling town halls where he got better ratings already, Joe Biden did.
Right.
So if he's obsessed with ratings, that seems like a bad idea. And think about the two different audiences. So he could just wait and release it to 60 Minutes. And there's presumably a lot of people who watch 60 Minutes that aren't necessarily predisposed to vote for him, that if he had given a sane interview might be swayed. Instead, he's going to shank that and release it himself on Twitter, I guess. And that will get his base to watch it, but they're already voting for him. And all of this goes to, is he the electoral genius that people are assuming that he is? And I am searching for evidence and I am coming up empty. I've got nothing. This seems like he likes it. All of this is psychologically, this is him, Jeffrey tubing for like the whole country. That's effectively what it is. And it works for his base. They like it because they're doing the same Zoom call shenanigans as he is. That's all politics is to them. But in terms of actually winning an election and winning over new people, even the people he's explicitly saying he wants to win over, I don't see any of this actually helping him. I just don't. Maybe I'm crazy. Tell me in the chat if I'm crazy. I don't think so.
Well, there's been a string of things he's done recently that don't make much sense, and big supporters of his. I mean, we're gonna talk about Mike Huckabee, and then Brian Kilmeade is trying to find ways to figure out why he would do such a thing. Brian Kilmeade had 2 instances where he's like, I don't know why he would do this. It was the not condemning white supremacy, and then I forget the second one, but they're all trying to figure out why.
Stopping negotiations for the stimulus.
That was right. They're like, why would he torpedo these so many things? I thought he was a genius. Like, they can't figure it out because none of it makes any sense. So especially from your point of view, John, where we're actually critical of the things that he does, people that are supportive of everything he does are also, they're perplexed because none of it makes any sense. It's shooting himself in the foot and it's slapping himself in the face. And then they keep going back. I thought he was a master negotiator. Bro, we've been talking about this his entire life, that he's not a master negotiator. He's just fooled you long enough to believe so.
Maybe. So you gave us your potential theory. I have a potential theory, and I'm gonna roll it out in just 1 minute. I wanna just read a little bit of this behind the scenes information first. And I think in the end, I bold prediction, my theory, I think a lot of people are gonna agree with it. So according to a person with knowledge of what happened during the interview, Trump was unhappy that Stahl asked him tough questions regarding his rhetoric about Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, saying she deserves to be locked up, effectively saying the militia was doing the right thing, and his handling of the coronavirus pandemic, which he's been complaining about the fact that there's a focus on in the election at rallies, as well as the size of the crowds at his rallies, which are super spreader events, and his disputes with Anthony Fauci, a guy that he's pretending supports him who doesn't, the nation's leading infectious disease expert. Notably, it's Fauci, it's not Scott Atlas. Stahl also told him during the interview that allegations against Biden's son Hunter were not verified, which is true, and that the Obama administration did not spy on the Trump campaign because they didn't. Many of the questions were about the coronavirus pandemic and his handling of it, said this unnamed person who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the interview frankly, and so that they didn't wake up with Roger Stone's head in their bed or something. So when Trump first walked in, Stahl looked at him and said, "Are you ready for a tough interview?" The president believes 60 Minutes will cut the interview in an unflattering way and has been talking all afternoon about how to preempt the footage, said this person. So they'd cut it in an unflattering way, which means using video footage, because there's no flattering thing that they're gonna get out of that. So here's my theory. Here's what happened. He walked into the interview, she was tough. She asked him about the multiple crises facing America and his election strategy being founded in right-wing fever dreams about Hunter Biden. He lost it, he ran out, and all of this stuff is cover. That's all it is. It's not a real strategy. It's not preempting. It looks bad that I had a hissy fit and ran out of the room. So I'm gonna make it seem as if I've got a big storm brewing, that I've got this plan, that I'm like, no, you ran out. I don't know if it was because he was roided up or just because he has the emotional resilience of a 5-year-old on too much sugar. But that's what I think it is. I think he ran out and he doesn't want to look like he ran out. So he's going to make it about Lesley Stahl, who apparently just asked him tough, honest questions.
And I bet you some of those tough, honest questions were follow-ups that included the words, who, what, wait, when, wait, well, why? Like those are simple 1-word follow-up questions. No, and it seems I tweet it all the time, especially in the interviews when someone doesn't ask them, or debates or the town halls when no one asks them, wait, okay, so why? If you say, well, why would this happen? Everything is a prediction of what will happen in Joe Biden's America. If you just ask him, well, why would that happen? How would that happen? Oh, you said everything is bouncing back so much and the economy is shooting off like a rocket ship. Can you give me those numbers? Where? It's simple questions. This isn't hard.
Yeah.
A middle school journalist can do it. If you're just learning about how to ask someone a question, how to interview someone, it's just, well, how? Just a general curiosity for the answer without moving on just because the president said something and then moving on. That's what we do in politics and in political reporting now. If the politician says something and talks long enough, the way Mike Pence does, eventually you just say, okay, we run out of time, so let's move on to the next. Instead of going, well, how?
Like I said, we have really fast. We have 2 categories of things left to potentially affect the election. Well, 3. We have 3 categories of things that could potentially affect the election, which he has differing levels of control over. One is purely random domestic or international events. Someone attacks us. There's a terror attack, something like that. I don't know. The pandemic is hypothetically one of those things. There's stuff that he's supposed to be doing during the campaign, like the interview with Lesley Stahl, like the debates, which he's now down to just 1. He has one last chance to do something sane to turn this around. And then there's the stuff I'm most worried about, which is what's he going to announce? What's like, I keep saying next Wednesday, big news Wednesday before the election, he announces the vaccine. You heard it here first, clip it out. We're not going to, but and with this regularly scheduled stuff, I don't know what he's doing, man. It doesn't mean he can't win. He can win because life is hell, but it doesn't seem like he's gonna win because of a strategy, because the strategy ain't there. It's just not.
Yeah, he's definitely not convincing anyone based off of any kind of a vision of a great future under Donald Trump. It's strictly because it's like we have to surround ourselves with each other, and you voted for me just because you hate everyone else. That's the only thing there.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's see. Before we move into our next topic, we're having. Oh, cool. Okay, we have a new doc. Anyway, let's see what's been going on with the audience. So in the super chats, you know who is first? Kyle Cushing, who super chatted to us. Did you get to watch AOC Twitch stream playing Among Us? Kyle, yes, a little bit, and we're gonna be talking about it a little bit later on. But thank you for messaging me about that. I got a lot of messages when she first said that she was gonna be playing Among Us on Twitch. So Brianna Circus says, uplifting story to report the Pope is for gay unions and says they are all children of God. Why can't the fake Christians come to that conclusion? Yes, Brianna, thank you for messaging that. Yeah, we don't have time to do a full story about it, but I was definitely going to message it. That's interesting. That's good. I don't know why it's coming out in this documentary that he was apparently filming or whatever. But if he is saying they're all children of God, I'm okay with this. It is not as far as obviously we would hope the Pope would go, but really any position change from the Pope has the chance of affecting the views of a great many people around the world. So I think that's certainly good news, and I hope that it's not like a random one-off comment. That he will speak more in the future about this, and perhaps that'll have an effect on the hierarchy below him.
Yeah, I don't have much faith.
Any thoughts about that, Jayar?
I don't have much faith in people listening to what he said and taking it to heart, because the one thing that is least, in many of these folks that have been bred in hatred for certain of the folks under the guise of Christianity, that's the one thing they hold on to. The ones that are holding on to that kind of, because there's Christians that are okay with gay folks and aren't believing that part of the doctrine. So the people that do, what they came for was the hatred. So if there's a figure that suddenly says something opposite, they're like, well, that's antithetical to what I came here for. So now I disavow that person, that segment. I'm not saying all Christians, but that segment will say that. They don't care. They're like, he's just a man. But before that, he's the living embodiment of Christ or whatever they say he is.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'll take any progress because there's so little. Stan Z says, I love how Jeffrey tubing is now a verb. Yeah, I wish it wasn't. No, anyway, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Isn't it weird? We didn't talk about that on the show. Does that seem like we would? I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
I don't think anybody really enjoyed it. I don't think there was much liking going on of that.
Yeah, that's true. Emergency says, when the orange baby can't have his way on 60 Minutes, he walks away. Now the debate is so unfair, his mic is muted so he can't swear. I realized that was a poem halfway through and I think I delivered on the end. Good job, Emergency. Franklin Sharp Slicer. Got a little bit of competition in the poetry area there. But Franklin has already delivered. Happy Humpy Day, living in Wyoming so far, far away. Joy and John and Jayar having fun, it's true. You don't seem so far away, glad to again see you. That could be a song, do well today. It just was a song, Franklin, because of you, thank you. And over on Twitch, Obi-Wan Kenobi, thank you for gifting subs. Trimo Boutique as well, Brandy Lou too, thank you so much. All awesome ambassadors for both TDR and also TYT, really do appreciate that. Cynicism, thank you for resubscribing on a 5-month streak. Thank you for that. And CMomo79 says, Dragon Squad unit in Wisconsin and can't wait to order my shirt Friday when I get paid. That's awesome, thank you. Fairy Cat says, Dragon Squad, thank you. And John's Venn diagram desire, I just saw a comment that I voted today. That's awesome, thank you.
The only question left on the shirts is which one is a bigger seller, the straight Damage Report or the Dragon Squad? Which one is gonna get it? That's the latest.
I'll have to check. I think that the Damage Report one is gonna end up being better just because people went crazy when it first came out, and it's the best-selling shirt all year. Like it's other than one of the masks, it's the best-selling thing on Shop TYT all year. I would be great if this were to do better because it's sort of more personal, but I don't know if that's gonna. I just don't know if that's. Sexy Melly B, hope you feel better soon. Just saw your comment. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, with that, let's jump back on the news. A lot of serious news to get to before a little bit of fun to close things out. Okay. Update on what I would argue is one of the most horrendous effects of the Trump administration was the massive expansion and institutionalization of family separation as like the specific doctrine of the Trump administration, and specifically to be as cruel as possible to scare people away from coming to the country because of the horror at the prospect of losing your child. So we now have an update on that, and it's awful. Lawyers appointed by a federal judge to identify migrant families who were separated by the Trump administration say that they have yet to track down the parents of 545 children. And that about 2/3 of those parents were deported to Central America without their children, according to a filing just yesterday from the ACLU. To catch you up, the Trump administration instituted a zero tolerance policy back in 2018 that separated migrant children and parents at the southern US border. The administration later confirmed that it had actually begun separating families in 2017 along some parts of the border under a pilot program. Apparently they liked the results of it, so they expanded it. Unlike the 2,800 families separated under zero tolerance in 2018, most of whom remained in custody when the policy was ended by executive order, many of the more than 1,000 parents separated from their children under the pilot program had already been deported before a federal judge in California ordered that they be found, partially because we didn't know about it. And so while a good number of families have been reunited, we have this massive group that haven't been, and there is not a lot of reason to believe that they ever will be, Jayar.
Yeah, let's revisit what happened with the child separation thing. So as you talked about, there was the pilot program, which I didn't previously know about either. But the fact that there was first a pilot program where they decided to test this out to see exactly how cruel and inhumane they can be for the sake of deterring people that were fleeing cruel and inhumane circumstances to try and flee and come to a country that they've been sold on believing isn't like that. That's the first thing that strikes a lot of these folks when they get here is, oh man, we went from a really bad situation to just an almost really bad situation, just definitely a bad one. So you come in this country and then the policy is to separate kids as young as infants from their parents and then split them up because that will make it down the line to other folks that are fleeing to not try it. not sure how the communication would work with that, especially after you just lost your child. But now with the mix up in the way they even carried that part out. So the kidnapping wasn't even organized enough for you to reunite these folks with their families. So in order for you to have this plan, you have to have such a detachment from the humanity of certain folks that you do this to. This is where racism comes into view here. So everyone who's mad about how racism keeps getting brought up by minorities, this is one of the reasons why. If you're racist, you have this view of certain folks that they're less than human. That's the only way you can treat them like animals is because you call them animals, which this president has definitely done multiple times. So if your policy, which we see has been absolutely detailed here, from a pilot program to a full-on government program, I think it's a direct result of your racism leading to policy that affects people's lives. Now, if you look and have that number of 542, I believe it was, children that are still separated, and the thousands of others that were reunited but have lifelong trauma. How about these folks that are sitting there? Do they put their brains and their bodies in this child's position? And you remember when you were 5 years old maybe, and think, man, there was that one time I was at the grocery store and I got separated from my mother for 5 seconds and it felt like an hour. And you're screaming through the store, you don't know where your mom is. Now, how about for the rest of your life? They don't put themselves in that situation because they don't think these people are humans like they are. It's the only way you can pull these types of things off. That's why being a racist is one of the worst things, because it leads to more inhumane things, punishments of folks that don't deserve it. And then you feel like you're better than them. And then that feeds your ego and it feeds your racism. This is why it's a problem when you walk down and you come down the escalator and the first thing you say is they're rapists, they're murderers, they're criminals, and maybe a few of them are good people. That's why it was a problem from the first thing this guy said when he came into office, is because we knew it would turn into policy that would honestly hurt the people that he just said are not real human beings. That's why racism is a problem, because it leads to stuff like this.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. On the effect, on why they did it, why so many Trump supporters aren't bothered by it, because this stands out not only as one of the most horrendous things that they have done in their time, but also just added to the list of things that didn't bother any elected Republicans, no Republicans and conservatives and media, and seemingly none of his voters. Maybe 1% dropped off. Maybe that's partly why he's losing now. But I don't remember seeing a lot of them saying, well, this is a bridge too far. After all, I'm a conservative. I care about family values and I'm pro-life and all of that. No, they don't seem to actually be bothered by it at all. The uterus collector story. Was Fox News, like, were they angry about that? I mean, pro-life again, but again, pro certain types of life. Let's be clear, pro-white life. That's what they want. And the thing about this that shocks me the most is, so obviously we talked about it a lot. Actually, the time that AOC came on the show, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, was to talk about this story because she had just gone to one of the border facilities. When I look at that and that number, it's 545 children still haven't been reunited. It reminds me of the pandemic in a way. It's one of those things that just goes to how flawed our dumb monkey brains are, is that if it was one child, it could be a documentary. It could be a story. It could be like, think about like stories like, Elian Gonzalez or something like that. Like one person is a whole thing, but lots of them, it was a policy. It was bureaucratic. It's removed. We should, like, if one person deserves 3 days of coverage, 5 days of mentions, shouldn't this last years? It's that many more, but it doesn't. It actually makes it, like, maybe it's because we look at that story and we just think, oh my God, I don't want to think about how unrepentantly evil the people we've given the power of life and death are. But they are, and they don't care. Stephen Miller's not losing sleep over this. I mean, I know that he looks like he's aging prematurely and falling apart, but that's not because of this. The whole thing is just disgusting. It's just disgusting, and thankfully there are groups like the ACLU that are staying on this and making sure that we know this.
It's such a good point about if this was documented about one person and one person's struggle and one family struggle, look what happened. It would stand out because we'd associate yourself with that one person. And can you believe what happened to them? And now, I mean, same with COVID, over 200,000 dead and then thousands a day new cases. Like, well, we've lost that many. What's 5,000 new cases a day? It's all minimized because the numbers got so big that it's like, oh, well, at least it's not 1 million. Then if it gets to 1 million, at least it's not 2 million. Like, you can always pump up the number and say it could be worse.
Yeah, 100%. Oh God. I wonder what percent they will. I mean, a lot are gone. Like they're not gonna bring the parents back. Maybe some, but it's still gonna end up being hundreds at the very least. Yeah. God. Okay, let's move on to another serious topic. Okay. One of the cores of Trump's re-election message is that Hunter Biden made a lot of money in China and Ukraine. Maybe Joe too, I don't know. The theory is very loose, but it's that the son of Joe Biden, his opponent, was enriching himself based on stuff having to do with China and Ukraine. And here's the weird thing. We've got some news that unfortunately didn't come from a reputable source, like a laptop in a pawn shop. It comes from the New York Times. Maybe that's something about Trump's financial history with China, which arguably might be relevant to the election as well. If we're gonna be talking about people enriching themselves in China, maybe we could also talk about the people who are actually running rather than their relatives. And certainly in the past, we've talked about his own relatives enriching themselves in China. But again, it didn't come from a pawn shop, so I'm not gonna waste your time with it. So let's give you just a little bit from the New York Times' most recent reporting. And again, this is like the fifth story in a string of stories having to do with their renewed focus on his financial history, including from the tax documents that they were able to get access to at the New York Times. Mr. Trump's own business history is filled with overseas financial deals, and some have involved the Chinese state. He spent a decade unsuccessfully pursuing projects in China, operating an office there during his first run for president, and forging a partnership with a major government-controlled company. And it turns out that China is one of only 3 foreign nations, the others are Britain and Ireland, where Mr. Trump maintains a bank account, according to an analysis of the president's tax records. Again, this is coming from that. The foreign accounts do not show up on Mr. Trump's public financial disclosures, weird oversight, where he must list personal assets because they're held under corporate names. The identities of the financial institutions are not clear. The tax records do not include details on how much money may have passed through the overseas accounts through the IRS, though the IRS does require filers to report the portion of their income derived from other countries. Now they're not doing that, so presumably if there's money, then he's violating a law there. It's not super clear. In response to questions from the Times, Alan Garton, a lawyer for the Trump organization, said the company had, quote, opened an account with a Chinese bank having offices in the US in order to pay the local taxes associated with efforts to do business there. He said the company had opened the account after establishing an office in China to explore the potential for hotel deals in Asia. Now, Mr. Garton does say no deals, transactions, or other business activities ever materialized, and since 2015, the office has remained inactive. Though the bank account remains open, it has never been used for any other purposes, although he wouldn't even say which bank in China it was. But interestingly, and we don't know if it's this bank. Until last year, China's biggest state-controlled bank rented 3 floors in Trump Tower, not 3 like rooms, 3 floors, a lucrative lease that drew accusations of a conflict of interest for the president. That is until last year. Years into his presidency, a massive state-owned bank was giving him tons of money. 3 whole floors in his biggest, most important, most financially lucrative property. Now, again, this isn't rock solid reporting like the blind guy with the laptop in the pawn shop, but the New York Times is doing what they can. He was making money from China while in a political position to give them something in exchange for it. Hunter Biden had Joe Biden. He wasn't president, so arguably it's not as powerful a position with which to cash in, but maybe it's worth at least a few minutes of our time in the run up to this election.
You know what, the part about this that's gonna help him is that, again, because there's details. And Americans, we don't do well with details. But again, it goes back to a very simple question. If his attorney wants to say that they have these bank accounts open, he was there for preliminary purposes to see what kind of deals we can pull off in Asia for hotels and everything, and then it's kind of come up empty. There's many ways to go ahead and prove to the American people that don't trust you, which the large majority don't, to prove to us that everything is on the up and up. Show us how nothing's funneling through these bank accounts. Show us what is coming through them. Tell us why that this Chinese company is rented out 3 floors of rooms in your building and how much knowledge you had about it. And then why you're so secretive about all of this. We all know why, because there's things in there that you don't want to tell us. Now, if it's anyone else, if this happens on the opposite side of the aisle, I can't tell you how much hair pulling is gonna happen from Republicans to say, can you imagine what's happening? They won't even be, can you imagine? They'll just say what's happening with absolutely no proof behind what's happening. They'll just come to conclusions. Did you know that he's running this many hotels in this country and that's what's going on? Like, but the fact that there's so much of this is gonna allow even us, not specifically us TYT, but specifically people that oppose this guy, to move on to the next. It's like, well, how do we really dig deep into this one and get him to answer? Man, I don't know, maybe Lesley Stahl brought it up in the 60 Minutes interview right before he stepped out. Maybe she asked one of those very important questions. Well, where are the records? Maybe it was where. Maybe where of the easy questions was the one she pulled out. Maybe it was how. I don't know. How about why?
Maybe.
Whichever one of those things made him jump up and run, because there's way too many questions regarding this story that we don't have any answers to.
Yeah, I don't even know what the questions might have been, but the fact that she hypothetically might have asked them is making me so mad that I want to leave the room and then pretend that it's a power move. I'm an alpha. Anyway, yeah, so here's what we have. We have enough potential conflict of interest that by itself is a problem. We have, like in some of the other New York Times reporting, we have the implication that tax law was being violated, but we don't know for sure. Because again, we still don't have his taxes, which years ago stopped being a thing that I was mad at Donald Trump at. He's never gonna release it. Now I'm mad at the Democrats, including Richard Neal, who hypothetically could have had access to it. And then also we have, just to jump ahead just a little bit, actually it's not jumping that much ahead. Not long after winning the 2016 election, Mr. Trump reported selling a penthouse in one of his Manhattan buildings for $15.8 million to a Chinese-American businesswoman named Zhao Yanchen, who bought the unit previously occupied by Ivanka Trump and her husband, Jared Kushner. In an off-market transition. Mr. Chen runs an international consulting firm and reportedly has high-level connections to government and political elites in China, but I'm sure that Trump didn't know that. He apparently made a capital gain of at least $5.6 million from the penthouse sale in 2017 when he again was president. And here's the thing, man. Like I saw someone in the Twitch chats like, wait, what about the emoluments clause? And I'm sure it was intended as a joke, because it is in practice. We have to remember that, like with so much, America, like in the words of the great Mike Lee, America is not a democracy. And I would only add that America is doing democratic cosplay. Like it has some of the trappings, but they're cheaply made at best. They're not doing their best. Yeah, we have an emoluments clause and we can hypothetically impeach people and we have all of this stuff. But like it's glued on at best. It doesn't really mean anything. Trump can do whatever he wants. He can get paid as much as he wants. It's cosplay. And it's the word, normally I'm into it. In this case, I'm not, I prefer the real thing.
Well, people show up at the conventions, in this point, his rallies, and they get a glimpse of it, like at cosplay conventions. They're like, oh man, I'd love to really get to know that person. Oh, maybe that person is real. No, they're fake, they're just dressed up. They're gonna go home and put on regular clothes. They're not really that person. It's a fantasy, just like you're saying, it's a fantasy. You show up in that way.
Yeah, ugh. Anyway, okay, let's read a few comments, a few chats and things like that, and then we'll push on with more stories. Man, these hours pass by these days. Rob Shively sent in a super chat saying tubing is totally tubular to talk through today. Not with more context though, that's the problem. Sky Hart says, hi, I'm not here for the politics. I'm just a D&D 5th edition bard and I'm here to check out when the Dragon Daddy shirts are out for a friend. It's gonna take a bit, but do love bards though. Let's see, Wing Wei with a big super chat saying, I could be using this money for a Dragon Squad shirt. Wait, but you could have. What are you gonna do now? Anyway, thank you for the super chat. Hopefully you can also get that shirt. I wish I could just send you one after that super chat. Okay, Joe Willis says, if you're against women having the choice to do what they want with their bodies, but cool with children being separated from parents, you're not pro-life, you're anti-abortion. Use the right term. Totally. Yes,
absolutely.
John Data Baptist says, hi, from Very Red, Mariposa, California. Who is the maker of your guitar, Jayar?
Oh, the one on the wall. Well, it's not mine, it's my wife's. Everyone asks me, it's a Washburn, but the tailor is not on the wall because it's a tailor, and that's in some secure spots.
I don't know this thing, but it sounds cool. It sounds fancy.
The Washburn is visible. The nicer one is not.
It looks very classic.
And I play guitar. I play guitar like a 3-year-old. Just heads up.
Yeah,
it's not mine.
There are some awesome 3-year-old guitarists on TikTok, by the way. I assume I don't use it. I just get notifications from it that don't seem to be tailored for me. How much do they think I want to know about people's haircuts? I don't know. Anyway, John goes on to say, also, most people say, I'll believe it when I see it. Trump supporters say, I'll see it when I believe it. That's true. Let's see, we had a comment from Sexy Melly B who says, do me a solid and wish Steve a happy birthday, please. Falcon Steve 89, happy birthday. Hope it's a good one. Okay, Dustin Williams says, are you going to release an official TDR electoral prediction? Interesting. I'm gonna do even more than that. Brett Ehrlich is putting together, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. I might get in trouble. Don't tell Brett I said this. He's putting together this sort of thing that everybody's gonna be able to do, sort of Oscar style for the election. So it's gonna be more than just an electoral prediction. It's gonna be a bunch of predictions, and I will be making that active ahead of time or public ahead of time, and all of you can compare your results. Hopefully I will do better than I do during the Oscars. We'll see. Okay. Gilbert Wilcox says, next you'll hear that members of the administration got kickbacks for adoptions of these kids. I don't put it past it. Don't put it past them. By the way, what happened to Save the Children? Like, you're not worried about kids. I thought you were worried about kids. I thought that was your whole deal, that you're worried about kids. It's cosplay. It's all cosplay. That sword ain't real. That's foam. QAnon. They're foam. Anyway, okay, with that, I just got news that Brett has no interest in this show unless he's on it, and then even barely. No worries about him finding out. Totally. Okay, with that, let's jump into some other news because we got 3 more topics to get to, and I like all of them. So let's do that. Okay. In the run-up to the election, we know that tensions are running high. There's worries about political intimidation, political violence, and we're seeing an indication of that. That seems very, very legit. Fox News had this: New Hampshire homeowners receive threatening letters over Trump 2020 lawn signs. Now, if you just see that headline, which is the way everyone consumes news, that's really bad. I don't want people to be targeted because of their political signs, even if they make the bad decision of supporting Donald Trump. You can display whatever sign you want. And so let's get into the details. At least 2 residents who displayed pro-Trump flags and signs on their front lawns in small town New Hampshire reportedly received letters threatening to burn down their homes if the presidential election did not result in a victory for Democratic candidate Joe Biden. Captain Craig Fry of the Milford Police told Fox News the department referred the case to the US Postal Inspection Service and the state attorney general's office, which is conducting an investigation. So those are the official details as they are made available in that Fox story. Spoiler alert, there's a little bit more to this that I'm gonna try to reveal, but based off of that, Jayar, what do you think? People threatening each other because of their signs and their flags. That's un-American.
Yeah, it's both. Yeah, it's both the most surprising and unsurprising development we'll see from this, because we're already talking about how our militia men are supposed to show up at polling places to intimidate folks from not voting or voting the wrong way, whatever it is they want to tell people, or act like that they're the ones that show up to uphold voter consistency. So this is absolutely not surprising that now once you see yard signs or see what people may go for, start threatening them, because once the fear has really started to dig into their souls to see what could potentially happen this election cycle, and then the results of that happening once this guy could be out of office, you go for desperate moves. Desperate times call for what? Desperate measures. And it's just another example of how of the mindset. It's we'll try anything we can. We're now attempting the cheating and the stealing part, and just in case that doesn't work, let's go ahead and go with the direct intimidation and threats on people's lives if they vote the quote unquote wrong way, because we're Americans, and oh boy, we hate those third world countries that we're trying to fix and bring more to a democratic approach. So we do, the shining example on the hill. All these things that we like to say, but that many of our citizens and apparently now leaders don't really believe in. So it's tough, and I wish people that are being targeted like this get the opportunity to have a little pushback and hopefully aren't intimidated by it. I assume many of this is just empty threats, but you never know. That's the point of it.
I do think it's empty threats, but I think there's also a little bit more to it. So let's have a little bit of fun, as much fun as you can have with the implied threat of political violence. One of my favorite YouTube channels is called Shut Up and Sit Down. They do board game reviews, very high quality, very well researched, very well considered. What they are known for is what's called the mid-review turnaround, where they'll be talking about all that's good about a game, how it looks, how it plays, and then they'll switch and they'll start talking about the stuff that makes it bad and why they can't recommend it. So we're about to do a TDR mid-story turnaround. So do I think that these things were sent to people with Trump signs? Yes, I do. Do I think that the people, for instance, the people in that Fox News story who are talking about how intimidated they feel, are they right to feel intimidated? They 100% are. Even though they're Trump supporters, they are. But who is intimidating them? I've got a theory. And I don't think it's leftists or Biden supporters, because the actual letters that they got are not in that Fox News story, but there are references to things in the letter. We were actually given a copy of the letter by Marginelli on Twitter. And so I want to read through what was actually sent to them, and we're gonna see if we can figure out who's likely to have actually sent this. Dear neighbor, you have been, dear neighbor, that's what I send when I'm threatening someone's life. Dear neighbor, you have been identified by our group as being a Trump supporter. Your address has been added into our database as a target for when we attack should Trump not concede the election. We recommend that you check your home insurance policy and make that it is current and that it has adequate coverage for fire damage. You have been given fair warning. Always remember that it was you, in quotation marks, that started this civil war. Be prepared to face the severe consequences of your preemptive actions against democracy. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you first. What do you think?
There's so many. I don't know. There's so many angles to this, because then also there was emails that went out to like some Florida students, that were on the opposite side of it, saying, if you don't vote towards Trump, there's going to be a problem here. We're the Proud Boys, and the Proud Boys had to disavow it and say it wasn't them, and then apparently it was coming from some server and overseas. So there's so many different
approaches. Has a story about that.
Yeah, right. So how much that matches up with this, I don't know, and how much this is supposed to be coordinated with making sure that there's a across the board voter threat thing that's going on now. I don't know, but the letter, dear neighbor. I mean, I know whenever, I've never had a fight with any neighbors, but I've seen it on TV, and a lot of times when it happens, you usually don't go, "Hey, how you doing there, neighbor?" You know what? F you.
Heidi ho. Heidi ho, coming for you kids.
Heidi ho, so who you voting for? Oh, you better not, or else I'm gonna shoot you. Like, this is weird. I don't know. So, maybe they started off as friends and then it ended badly. So they still have some level of respect for each other. None of it makes any sense. That's the point. Is so I don't know where to follow this from, honestly.
No, I do. Look, I don't like to speak in absolutes because it annoys me when people do it, and I'm a literal idiot. But I know what this is. Come on. This is a false flag. It's a false paper. I don't know. It was sent by someone who supports Donald Trump to scare people so that the news will cover it, which they did. It's on Fox News to make it seem as if leftists are the violent ones. None of that makes any sense for a leftist to have actually sent. You've been identified as a Trump supporter. Well, I mean, they did have the sign. I guess that makes sense. They're like implying that they have some sort of secret database. They have signs, obviously. The dear neighbor, you've been given fair warning. You started this civil war. Check your insurance for fire damage. What sort of threat is this? None of this makes any sense. This is a right-wing Antifa fever dream. First of all, it's not even, as someone on Twitch pointed out, it's not even on official Antifa letterhead. And no Antifa super soldier would use a font that small. They use 28 or higher, we all know this. No, this is obvious BS to get the right wing to go crazy, to get Ben Shapiro to squeak about it, to get Charlie Kirk to twitch about it. That's all it's designed to do, is for them to freak out and pretend that this is the violence that we should be worried about in our election. This is what we should be worried about before voting day. That is it. I've never been more confident of anything in my life.
So the only thing they missed was the Comic Sans font. That's the only thing they left off.
Which is a very threatening font, by the way. Most people don't accept that, but. Anyway, yeah, no, it's so fake. Look, are people making threats? Potentially, yes. There are things you should worry about. Like I saw a story, by the way, of someone whose hand was gashed open because apparently people had been ripping political signs out, even ripping Trump signs out. Let's be fair. And so this Trump supporter had rigged razor blades on the bottom of their thing, so that if you ripped it out, you'd cut your hands open, which happened to this person. The person who set that booby trap, which is totally illegal, you can't do that, says, I have no idea how the razor blades got there. I guess it came that way from Party City. Anyway, this is just such a lie.
Well, Trump signs are sold from his website with the razor blades included. Only on some, you just don't know which ones.
Yeah, ugh. By the way, there's a comment. I thought Anna had cleared off the toy shelf. Oh no, they did. I had to set it back up this morning, actually, and I don't even think I did it right. So now it's never gonna be right again. Anyway.
Well, John, what you have to do is put some razor blades on the bottom to make sure that no one moves them next time.
Yeah. If you touch my AOC action figure, the bottom of it is coated with sulfuric acid. I don't know how it got there. My Dobby is rigged to explode. That sounds like something Jeffrey Toobin would say. Anyway, okay, so let's push right on to our next story because I'm now feeling very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to give Mike Huckabee credit for something he had to say. He's on Fox and Friends this morning, and they're talking about the election, and he made a good point. Let's watch.
One thing I know for sure, if you actually order a Trumpy bear, you're most likely going to vote for Donald Trump. That, according to a new study I just did. I also have found out that your daughter is leaning towards the president, but we're looking for a second source. 36 million people voted already, Governor Huckabee, and people think automatically that that's good for Democrats. I think it's good for America. What about you?
Yeah, I think it is too. It shows an extraordinary interest. When people are lined up to vote, it means that they really care. They don't drive by and say, long line, forget about it. They get in that line and they wait an hour and a half and they cast their vote. It shows the passion of the American people. In these final days, what the president has to do is forget about Hunter Biden, forget about all the distractions of everything except one thing. Remind the American people that it is their lives that really on the mark right now.
But Governor, he's leading with Hunter Biden. Is that a mistake?
Yeah, it is a mistake because the average person doesn't understand it. It's too complicated. Right. And frankly, it doesn't matter to them. They care about their health care costs. They care about their taxes. They care about safety in their neighborhood, on their block, and in their yard. Focus on that. He wins the election by a landslide.
Jayar, that's mostly there's stuff I don't like in that, and we'll focus on that. But that's good advice
about how to stop focusing on cartoon issues. You mean?
Yeah.
And made up conspiracy theories. Yeah, it's good advice. The problem is he's talking to Donald Trump, who's I'm sure has gotten that advice. Guaranteed he's gotten that advice. Other Republicans have quietly said it. They just didn't say it as directly as Mike Huckabee did because they're afraid of him. Well, Mike Huckabee is too, but at least he's not worried about losing a seat or anything like that now. So that's when Republican courage really boils to the top, is when there's no consequences left from the guy that you're talking to. Just the sentence said, yeah, I think it is a mistake. That sentence has never been uttered by any other conservative in this entire 4 years this guy's been in office at all. Nothing he says is a mistake.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why, look, Biden acknowledging they made mistakes at the last town hall. I like that. Hopefully stop doing it, but yeah. I like that. So
let's keep it real. I'm sorry, John. Let's keep it real. One small thing. Also, yeah, he said he's gonna win by a landslide if he does this. Yeah, no, he's not. That's the part that I was like, come on, please. If he flips in the last couple weeks and decides to start talking about policy that he has none of, he's not winning by a landslide. Let's just keep it real. If he wins, it's definitely not by a landslide.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, he's not 100% right. It won't make him win by a landslide, and honestly, it's probably, like knock on whatever this table's made of. It's probably too late to legitimately win the election on the vote. There's less than 2 weeks at this point. Again, anything could happen. There's 3 different categories. Remember, we'll go through them again in the future. But anyway, I do think it gives him a better chance. The Hunter Biden stuff is not going to win over the very few people that are still undecided. That's not what they're waiting for. If they cared about that stuff, they would already be watching Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity every night. That's designed for it. They'd be doing that. It is designed to stroke his ego. That's it. He likes that stuff. That's how he thinks. That's how he won the Republican primary. That's how he thinks he won against Hillary Clinton. I don't think that's actually true, but that's what he thinks. It makes more sense. Mike Huckabee, just pretend you care about the pandemic, you big, dumb, stupid idiot. Like, just pretend. I know that you don't. I know you're not gonna do anything. Pretend you're gonna do something. And next Wednesday, we're gonna get that when he launches the vaccine. But he should have been doing that for months. I do think he could have won this election in a landslide. I just think it's too late now. If he had pretended to care about whether the people he rules lives or dies, he would have won in a landslide. That's how low the bar is. He couldn't even pass that bar. It is good. Oh no, it's gonna be about something else. So continue.
No, just the very beginning of that, when Kilmeade and Mike Huckabee were talking about the 36 million people that have jumped out early. We all know, and this is very well known, Republicans don't like it when more people come out to vote. So let's not try and flip that script either and be like, oh man, I don't see why they're saying 36 million people coming out unprecedented to vote so early is a bad thing. Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, it is great for America, as they said, but not for the people that these two guys are supporting. So that whole line of BS just isn't gonna fly either. They openly have said how they don't want people to vote. And if they did want people to vote, they wouldn't suppress people's vote to the degree that they do. So those are they just don't add up.
I don't think that they actually like that the turnout is going up. Like they're pretending that they do. What they do like is it's so patriotic that people are waiting in lines. No, again, the lines are a failure driven mostly by the fact that, again, America does democratic cosplay and doesn't do actual democracy. Yeah. Any line is a failure. I'm looking at you, Panda Express, and I'm looking at you, American democracy. I don't want to wait in line, and I shouldn't have to, whether for chow mein or to exercise my democratic rights. That's not the way it's supposed to work. And by the way, hour-and-a-half lines are not the problem. They're an issue, and they shouldn't exist. And I've effectively never had to wait for an hour and a half. It's 5-hour lines and 8-hour lines and 11-hour lines. No one should have to do that anywhere in the world. Okay, we've got an EV Hummer. Okay, we should be able to get people through a line to vote in less than 10 hours. I don't think that's asking too much.
Yeah, they don't want it. It's obvious. And I wish I'd have said it before you did. If you're at the grocery store and the line is more than 5-6 people, you know what you're gonna start doing? Complaining. You'd be like, why don't they open up another register? I can't believe this. Look at all these people buying something. You can't afford another cashier? Yeah, that's what people say when they're standing in line at the grocery store. Yeah. But they don't stand there and go, man, that lady in front of me has a cart full of groceries and I've got 4 things. This is great. I'm being patriotic.
Yeah.
No, that's not what you think.
I feel like I'm a part of the solution. Anyway, okay, so we've got one more topic to get to. I want to read a few comments before we do that. Nathan Poljak says, or Polak probably says, today tobacco free. So I'm putting my daily cigarette money to a better cause. Glad to be here, Dragon Squad. Congratulations. I've never had to give that up, nor have I ever been successful in giving something up. But that sounds very difficult. Awesome achievement. Thank you. Let's see. Seraphic says, I'd love a shirt, but the cost to ship to UK is ridiculous and costs more than the shirt. I have to contribute this way instead. Wow. Seraphic, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm sure it's a vendor thing. We don't set the costs or anything, but I'm sorry about that. That is unfortunate. Zombie says, no one wants to be seen with Pence. This is a reference to the Lesley Stahl story. Pence's wife needs to be there so Pence doesn't get gropey. Jeez. Jennifer Hampton says, received my damage report shirt today. Thanks, Shop TYT. Love you, John and Jayar. That's awesome. Can't wait to have you out there wearing it. Let's see. James Cruiser says, watched Ilhan Omar and AOC play Among Us on Twitch. AOC is a pretty good gamer. We're gonna be talking about that in just a minute, actually. Memo says, we love the damage report in Mexico City. Thank you for the news. Thank you, Mexico City. I can't wait to see you someday. Lena Peak says, unrelated, but John, any leads on a new laptop? Mine is on its last leg. I'm partial to Apple products and I wish I wasn't. Thank you for the question, Lena. I tweeted about this. Yeah, my laptop was a work MacBook Pro from years ago, back before the Arctic. And it's still in pretty good shape. The battery was just having a lot of issues where it was draining down literally as I was charging it, like from Chrome, basically. Chrome is apparently harder on a CPU than Crysis. But anyway, I did a bunch of research into laptops and I encountered the thing. Jayar, I don't know if you've ever encountered this. So the internet means you can do a lot of research and find out a lot about products, but it also means that if anyone has had a bad experience with a product, you're gonna see it. And so when you're looking for something that costs a good amount of money, like finding a bunch of comments that are like, mine blew up and killed my dog or whatever, like you can find that about every single laptop. It's terrifying. But I did choose a laptop. I actually have it here. I just have started setting it up. It's not an Apple, although I do like Apple. It is an Asus Zephyrus G14. So hopefully gonna have a good experience with it. We'll see, still setting it up. Anyway, Franziska Schreiber says, thank you for your work. Greets from Germany. Franziska, thank you. I've been to Germany a couple of times and had a very good experience there.
I did too.
It is. I had a good escape room experience in there. I found myself in someone's house and I had to escape. Anyway, Matt Wiviot says, this is for the shut up and sit down mention. Bring Quinns on the show. I would love for Quinns to be on the show, but I don't think he wants to talk about politics for the most part. I have met Quinns before and he's a lovely human being. Hopefully he'll be on here. What I would like actually related to board games is if people could tweet at Tom Vassell on the Dice Tower and tell him that he needs to have me on to do a top 10 list with him, that would be a collaboration I could get behind. Anyway, May Money into Building says, hey John, I have finally broken through my creative lull and have been able to continue working on my fantasy novel. And the influx of cash from our new business allowed me to gift myself a Dragon Squad shirt. May Money, both of those are awesome. As someone who's writing a fantasy novel myself, it's awesome that you're doing it too. Okay, let's see. Bart says, hey Bart, I agree with John regarding standing in line because the average person will stand in line 2 to 3 years in a lifetime. Ooh, that is a good reason to always carry your Nintendo Switch with you. That could be 2 to 3 years well spent. Oh, you know what we should have? That would be a great, well, I mean, theoretically just having more polling places, but if you had a place that, they bring pizzas to people who have to wait in line to keep them there, we should have people to bring in Switches and hand them to people so that they can play like a Mario Kart in line during their 8-hour waiting period.
Time will pass quickly. We should have voting locations to be in arcades.
Oh yeah, or like have big portable movie screens, and you could do little like movies for people. That'd be cool.
Like a drive-in. Yeah, there's a screen.
Drive-in.
Look at these ideas.
Vote-in. Let's do a vote-in. Anyway, let's see. Dranoa says, I just came from the dentist, still cannot feel my nose. Staying awake for show, then headed for a nap. Perfect gray day for it here in NJ. Enjoy your nap, Dranoa. And let's see, Leftover Zach says, just voted Dragon Squad, maybe a 10-minute line in Clovis, New Mexico. That's the way it's supposed to be. I was supposed to vote by mail, but that ballot's just never coming. I've accepted that now. So I'm gonna vote, I guess, on election day. And if it's like it's been in past elections, it's gonna be like a 3-minute wait or something like that. We'll see, maybe 30 minutes, but that's acceptable. 11 hours is not. Anyway, how would you like to do this last story, Jayar?
I'd like to do it.
Let's do it, okay. The entire gaming, very online world exploded just 2 days ago when Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said, would anyone like to play games with me on Twitch? In particular, Among Us, which is a game that has just taken over Twitch in recent weeks. And she did it. It took a little bit to set up, but she and a group of streamers, including Hassan, previously of the Young Turks, played a game. And I want to give you a little bit of information about it. But first, here is a bit of a mashup of some of her reactions from playing this game. All you need to know is effectively it's a game of people ostensibly working together, but one of them is an imposter trying to kill the others, and you need to figure out who. Here is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez playing Among Us.
Yes, on Discord. Yeah.
Who is there? Oh, it's totally Toast. Oh my gosh. It's him. I know it is. It wasn't him.
The body.
Someone else will take care of that, right?
No. Okay, come on. Come on, I know that there are people, I'm not even gonna name names, some of my least favorite people in the world who had an issue with this on Twitter.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like this? Who doesn't like this? I get it, maybe you're on the right, which means that you are just seething with jealousy that this whole thing came together. But we're gonna have more information, but Jayar, come on, that was awesome.
Yeah, no, it seems like fun, and it's another way that you can use the technology that we're in now to actually show who you really are as a politician, as someone that's an elected official that usually we don't get much contact to. The social media sites have allowed that for many of them, and the real ones are themselves on those sites, and this transfers over here too. Donald Trump loves Twitter, but can you imagine him actually going on to actually interact with people in real time? No. And if you want to complain about her playing when she could be working, let's not get on that subject. Please, let's not, because I assume this is in the evening when you're not working anyway. But let's not talk about golfing trips, and let's definitely not talk about how much he spent on those golfing trips for playing games when he should be doing work or watching TV that he's specifically shown us. So anyway, I just want to address some of the potential, frustrations with her doing this.
And there was all of that and more. But yeah, people are saying, so Jayar, really fast, because I don't think you've played this. This is one of those games where you find out at the beginning whether you're the imposter or not. So one person, hypothetically, there's a lot of games like this. One person will be the spy or the imposter or the killer, and the others need to figure it out. And so that moment when you have to check your card effectively to see which you are can be really scary. She was the imposter in her first game. And I actually remember there's another game like this, a board game, where one of you is the killer. And the whole game is just, if you're the killer, you're trying to hide that you are, put suspicion on other people. And the first time we played it, my wife looked at her card and then said, I can't do it. Because she was the killer and she didn't want to do it. It's a lot of pressure. And she killed someone apparently in the first 30 seconds, which is really funny, being killed by AOC. That's how I want to go. But anyway, let me give you a little bit more information about this, because this was not just for games, this was to get out the vote. And if anything is gonna be successful in that, this event probably was. AOC was an imposter in her first game, and her stream alone peaked at 435,000 concurrent viewers. For context, that's not as many concurrent viewers as Drake and Ninja's record-breaking Fortnite stream. I don't understand how that was bigger, but it's perhaps the third biggest ever. And that's not to mention the fact that other streamers, including Ilhan Omar, were streaming it as well. When you add up all of that, it's something like 600,000 people who were watching it simultaneously, which is just insane. And that's awesome. And I know there was, I think Myth was one of the streamers with a lot of followers on Twitch who's never voted before and said that Myth is going to, and probably a lot of their viewers are probably going to. So I think this is great. There's very few people in government who could do this and not have it be unbearable. Those are two of them right there.
Yeah, because many of the people that maybe don't vote or are not interested in doing it, a lot of times may say something like, oh, well, they're all the same anyway. Oh, it doesn't matter, it's not gonna affect my life. And this is again an opportunity to see the potential differences and actually know who you're voting for, rather than just a name on a ballot. And you're like, oh, that last name sounds fun. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh man, that first name, she has the same first name as my grandmother. I'm voting for her. Like the reasons people vote, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I feel like that's many times the case. And if they actually get a chance to know who they're voting for and what they potentially stand for outside of what cable news tells you, it's beneficial. And it actually gives you some reason to stand in those 11-hour lines, which should not exist in the first place.
Yeah, totally. And by the way, really fast, because we showed that video of just AOC being like something that everybody has to love. Ilhan Omar, underrated, awesome person. She posted, this is a tweet that Ilhan Omar, representative, posted. Can I show you this? This is her computer specs. Very admirable, actually. That is badass. That she's posting like that. I mean, she's got a great SSD. She's got the RTX 2060, not bad. That's the, I have a mobile version on the new laptop that I just got. And then she posted this, captioned, "When you're winning." Come on. She's got the gamer headphones on. She's got the awesome lighting in the case. This is the next generation. This is what we need. Someday the neoliberals are gonna take over gaming and make it lame, but for now it's the cool kids, so that's fun.
I actually, I appreciate the picture Representative Omar posted. I don't appreciate the specs because it's like she's speaking another language. I have no idea what any of that means.
I mean, it speaks to me. What if she's speaking my language? I mean, come on. This is all you need to know. Ilhan Omar rocks with 32 gigs of RAM. That means she's got to be doing 4K like video editing or something. Come on. What do you need 32 gigs for? Anyway, there was a question in the audience, and it was, John, why didn't you do this? I didn't think to. I just didn't. Obviously, I wanted to. What are you talking about? I would love to. It didn't happen. And if you're wondering, am I salty? No, it is not accurate to say that I'm salty. What's accurate to say is that, like Lot's wife in biblical times, I am a pillar of salt. Obviously, it would have been my dream to do this. It didn't happen for a very simple reason. Nothing good happens to me. That's it.
We're working on it, John. We're working on it. Maybe you should shoot her a couple of Damage Report and Dragon Squad t-shirts. Maybe she'll rock one.
That's probably what'll do it. I don't know. Anyway, maybe someday, maybe if they do more events, I don't know. We have to bear in mind that this was a Twitch event, and the whole point is to get the biggest audiences possible. And all of the streamers that she streamed with have very big audiences specifically on Twitch. We're still very much building up on Twitch. We haven't been doing it for very long at all. TDR really has only started at some point during the pandemic. YouTube is a very different matter. We have a very large audience on YouTube, but that's not what they were doing. They were doing a Twitch thing, and they want as many audience. They want as big of an audience as possible. I would also argue, hypothetically, people watching the show probably have already voted. So I don't know that they need to be convinced as much as some of these gamers audiences.
Well, I'm just inspired now. I'm on Twitch. I just don't do anything with it. Time to launch it. Everybody go follow me on Twitch. I'm gonna start playing some games, ones that I have. I'm gonna put up my specs. And since I have this horrible internet stream, it's gonna be very, very underwhelming what you see when I put up my specs.
That does sound good. You know what we've been talking about doing? So we have game night for TYT, and we always play like Jackbox games. So we've been talking about doing Among Us for literally weeks at this point. But the problem is a lot of the people who come on game night, that's a level too hard for them to do. But maybe we could set up something. Play a little bit of Among Us. I've always loved games like that. We'll think about it. Okay. Anyway, Jayar, thank you so much. Always glad to have you on. You made it a big news Wednesday. Thank you.
Well, I just want to appreciate and thanks everyone who decided to hang on with me as I jumped in and out. But it was still a big news Wednesday. We'll take it. We'll take it that way.
It was exciting. It was suspicious behavior, a bit sus. So we have our eye on you in the future. But anyway, thank you, Jayar. Everyone follow Jayar over at Jayar Jackson on Twitter. And Jayar, we'll see you soon.
Apparently on Twitch too. See you guys later. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Apparently on Twitch too. Everyone do that. By the way, I saw a comment. Dranoa says, time to build up your gaming community. Yeah, but the thing, it's a time thing. It's so hard. Like a lot of these Twitch streamers, the reason they get big is because they can do 6 hours a day, day after day for literally years. All of these streamers have been doing it for literally years. They put all their time. Man, I got a full-time job. I got a wife. I got a lot of stuff to do. It's very difficult, but I would like to do a little bit more because I've been gaming since long before any of these streamers were even born. I was, playing Doom Shareware on 3.5-inch floppies. But anyway, I did want to notice individualism killed the cats comment. Game Set John, you're full of S. Good things do happen to you. I've seen your wife. Good counterpoint. I suppose that's the bargain of struck. Get the most awesome wife in the world. Don't necessarily get to game with my political idols. But anyway, okay, so let's read a few more comments before we close things out. We're a little bit over. British 32 says, hi John, could you move AOC and Bernie to this side a bit so we can see Baby Yoda? Oh, that's funny, yeah. So that Baby Yoda, who's part of the set, was actually sent by a member of Dragon Squad. Thank you for that. Let's see. JT Howe says, I watched AOC last night and she was so cute. She was like, this future spaceship still runs on a combustion engine. They're still using fossil fuels. We've got to change that. Great point. Gian Piero says, do you think voting should be mandatory? Why or why not? I don't think it should be mandatory. I don't necessarily have a very well thought out reason for why. I think it should be much more common. And I think there's a lot of things we can do to make that happen without making it mandatory. Let's see, Angry Little Nobody says, John, take a chuckle break and think about the team of aides trying to explain to Nancy Pelosi what an Among Us Twitch party is. PS, got my dragon shirt. Totally. Imagine, no, like, but it doesn't even have to be somebody that we're not big fans of. Imagine Bernie Sanders trying to play Among Us. Like I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. How dare you suspect me? I suspect you. Tom Twiddell says orange is sus, vote him out. Totally. That's the theme of the next 2 weeks. Maureen B says, no one works harder than AOC. I live in New York. She worked the census and found second language people to help. I love her. Exactly. She works super hard. She's still working while doing that, by the way. Okay, Curtis Jenny says, if Mike Huckabee is making a fair point, I'm starting to feel like we did in fact slip into an alternate timeline, a dark one. Dan Anthony says, not cosplay, kayfabe. In professional wrestling, the fact or convention of presenting stage performances is genuine or authentic. Yeah, no, I watched wrestling for literally years. I know that, but I don't think that's super accurate. I think a lot of political activity is kayfabe. I think almost all political media is kayfabe, and not just on the right. A lot of it is performative stuff for brand building, all of that. But I think that in terms of the norms that are supposed to protect us democratically not being really true, there's an element of kayfabe to it. But I think it is really cosplay. It's like, it looks better if we wear this. It's cool, but it's not true necessarily. Okay, LB says, John, thank you for talking about how wrong the lines are. I need to share this with Dem friends who don't understand the problem with 7-hour lines. Thank you, LB. Who doesn't understand that? Who thinks? I get that you think, hey, look at the commitment they're willing to make. But I don't want people to have to make insane commitments just to be. Like, there are people who work multiple jobs to get through college. I worked multiple jobs to get through college. That's commitment. I don't want people to have to make a commitment like that just to get an education or just to vote or just insert whatever you want. That's great if they'll do it. Let's make it so that they don't have to, okay? If we truly are the greatest country in the history of the world, let's make it not worthy of a documentary that somebody got along, what they had to do to get along. Let's see. Okay, Brandon Circus says, can we please talk about Trump talking about how Biden can't keep a train of thought, then botched it by forgetting the words of thought? I didn't actually see that, but I can already imagine it. Thank you. Let's see. Zach Duffer says, love your independence in journalism. Some of the most trustworthy coverage able to criticize both leading parties according to their actual behaviors. Thank you, thank you. A lot of people, let's say if they're being honest, only see the problems with one side. Other people will kayfabe it up in criticizing one side or both because that's their brand. But it's just honest that both sides do have problems, not equal problems. And I'm not gonna pretend that they have equal problems until they actually do. Jericho Anderson says Baby Yoda for the win, 100%. Can't wait for the season 2 of Mandalorian to start. Atticus Emerson says, got my Dragon Squad hoodie. Any chance at a Heather hoodie for the damage report design? That's an interesting idea. Chop2IT, your move. Let's see. Did I say 100%? I don't even remember saying it actually. Okay, Sarah Grace over on Twitch says, my 12-year-old said, if Trump wins, Gen Z is taking down the government. I hope so. Okay, Fairy Cat says, I'm probably gonna get iron-on transfer paper so my TDR hoodie can say Dragon Squad Canadian Division on the arm. That would be awesome. I'd like to see that start to spread. Let's see. Okay, over on Twitter. Okay, let's see. Wait, Jess Ortega gave us a story, Texas Tribune, that Texas social workers can turn away clients who are LGBTQ or have disability. What? Okay, I'm seeing some screenshots. Texas social workers can now turn away clients who are LGBTQ or have a disability. Officials voted last week to change a section of its code of conduct to remove protections of those clients. Oh, Jesus. Okay, that obviously is awful. I'm going to have to look more into that, but thank you, Jess, for letting us know that, and Bart for letting me know that. Antifa Off-World Specialist in hashtag TDR Live has a We Are R shirt. That's awesome. Couldn't it just be We Are R? I don't know, because that makes too much sense. It has to be We Are R for it to really play as parody. Thank you for that. And let's see, Sean Umpleby says, Jayar, great video you made the other day on the main show. Still waiting on my mail-in ballot. It's making me anxious here in Pennsylvania. Maureen B says, sadly, nothing seems real anymore. Most of the news is about discussing this kind of thing. Well, if you're talking about the AOC thing, like that is a get out the vote effort, and one that I think could definitely help, especially for low turnout individuals like younger people tend to be. I think it's a great idea. And it's the difference between someone trying to understand a group and someone being a part of a group and thus understanding it. She understands it. She is as much of a gamer, as much of a Twitch head, as much as whatever, a Twitter user as any of us. It's not a campaign that they're putting on. It's just them being them, and that's always going to win in the end. Anyway, thank you everybody. For those of you where I couldn't read your super chat, I do still read them off the show. So thank you for that support for the show. Other ways you can support us, going to Instagram.com/damage report. We have an Instagram now, putting up clips and all that. The Dragon Squad shirt is now available on Shop TYT, so go check it out there. I'm gonna be doing the main show, the Young Turks show, later on with Anna Kasparian, which should be a lot of fun. So maybe I'll see you then. And until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.